Welcome back to World Insight. Now, the strengthened U.S. presence in Iraq is being credited by Washington with undermining extremist tactics of intimidation and for cutting down levels in violence and also giving new hope to resolving the country's underlying political conflicts. Now the American troops are reversing direction deliberately, if not unwillingly, but can Iraq really stand on its own without an American presence?
Stay or go? It's no longer a question. This Monday, when the U.S. ambassador to Iraq and the Iraqi foreign minister signed a security pact, the presence of American forces was extended for 3 years.
This is certainly a historic day for the Iraqi-American relationships. After the signing of the security pact, following long months of grueling talks and negotiations.
The current UN mandate authorizing the multinational force to remain in Iraq expires on December 31st. The final draft of the new agreement provides for the departure of U.S. forces by the end of 2011 and gives Iraq the right to try U.S. soldiers and defense contractors for serious crimes committed off-duty and off-base. Iraqi leaders consider the firm deadline for withdrawal to be a negotiating victory. The outgoing administration of President George W. Bush long opposed setting any timetable for troop withdrawal, but relented in recent months.
Why did Bush change his mind? First, the increasingly high casualties of U.S. troops keeps grabbing U.S. public attention, which put great pressure upon him, especially in the final years of his presidency. Second, he thinks the additional troop deployment has helped to improve the condition on the ground, and that meets the precondition to set a timetable. He made the concession so as to leave his political legacy.
There are about 150,000 U.S. troops in Iraq. According to an Associated Press count, nearly 4,200 members of the U.S. military have died in the Iraq War since it began in March 2003. The Congressional Budget Office says the war costs $145 billion a year. Bush leaves office in January, leaving the problems to his successor, Barack Obama.
Obama has promised to withdraw U.S. troops from Iraq in the first 16 months of his term and to bolster U.S. troop levels in Afghanistan. Now it will be official U.S. policy before he even takes office in January. But it won't limit Obama's ability to deal with Iraqi affairs. On the contrary, it means much more for Bush, who started the war and pursued a good end before stepping down.
The Security Pact also prohibits the U.S. from using Iraqi territory to attack Iraq's neighbors, like Syria and Iran. Iran sees a long-term U.S. presence in Iraq as a threat and has been a loud opponent of the deal. Syria has expressed reservations too. Last month, the U.S. launched a cross-border assault against a Syrian village allegedly used to smuggle foreign fighters into Iraq.
We hope that the coming administration will learn from the mistakes of this administration and would work to save the American lives and other people's lives for causes which can be solved politically.
Iraqis in the capital, Baghdad, voiced mixed reactions to the pact.
They should work towards reinforcing the brave Iraqi army. We fully and totally reject the security pact.
If the security agreement benefits us, we accept it completely.
Hours after the cabinet approved the pact, 7 people died and 7 were wounded in a suicide car bombing at a police checkpoint northeast of Baghdad. The same day, another roadside bomb exploded near central Baghdad. 3 civilians were injured. The attacks show that violence continues to plague Iraq. An Associated Press tally has at least 19 bombings in Baghdad in the first 9 days of this month, compared with 28 for all of October and 22 in September. Despite a recent rise in violence, Iraq has seen a dramatic improvement in security over the past year.
We should look at the broader picture, and the broader picture is security has improved. The reported Iraqi casualties for October 2008, Iraq-wide, were the lowest since March 2003.
The improved conditions allow the U.S. to start the track to complete its shift out of all Iraqi cities by June 2009 and leave security in the hands of the Iraqis. The goal also is in the Security Pact.
In total, the Iraqi government has now taken over security responsibilities in 13 out of 18 Iraqi provinces. The accelerating security improvement in Baghdad and other provinces has assisted a return of normal life for people in most areas of Iraq.
And the first provincial elections since 2005 are expected at the end of January. They're widely seen as a major step in forging power-sharing agreements among Iraq's religious and ethnic communities and a key to lasting peace. But there's real fear that the election could heighten tensions between Sunnis, Shiites and Kurds, especially in the ethnically mixed north.
Generally speaking, the reconstruction of the political system in Iraq is still incomplete after the war. The temporary system cannot afford to keep the country stable and united, given the delicate relationships between the three ethnic groups.
The agreement's final passage through parliament is likely but not assured. Followers of Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr oppose the pact altogether, and the largest Sunni Arab bloc, the Accordance Front, says it should be put to the public in a referendum.
The drawdown in Iraq is prudent, because even though you could imagine going faster to get more forces available for Afghanistan, Iraq is still at a very sensitive moment. It has big elections coming up. It has a lot of refugees who might try to return to homes occupied by others. It has some big internal issues like the city of Kirkuk with a lot of oil still disputed among various sectarian groups. And not to mention that Al-Qaeda and the Jaish al-Mahdi militia are still somewhat active. So let's not assume this war is won just yet. It's going in the right direction, but prudence would be appropriate for a little bit longer.
Iraq's government has become increasingly confident of its ability to maintain order in the country, but some still worry the Iraqi army is not ready to play its role. Ready or not, U.S. troops are marching steadily in their own direction.
For 5 years have passed since the US-led invasion. Today, Iraq has become less volatile, but it's still not the democratic model that George Bush had hoped for after he helped overthrow Saddam Hussein. In the next few months, Iraq will serve as an early test of Barack Obama's skill in weighing options and also measuring risks. Now up next, we're going to go to our final story, China's 30 years of opening up and reforms through the eyes of one of its overseas sons.